Thanks, Francis. All right, hello everyone. We made it. I'll keep this brief so we can get to our honored guests. But I was just struck as Francis was giving us the rundown of some of the coolest, almost sci-fi sounding sessions that we had today and this whole weekend, that so much of effective altruism can be thought of as an attempt to grapple with our modern technological age, its challenges and its immense opportunities. This is an age that's made possible, the horrific efficiencies of factory farming, the ability to eradicate ancient diseases and also to invent new ones. It's really defined by humanity's new unprecedented ability to destroy ourselves. And today, we have the immense privilege of getting to hear from two people who were present at the time and place that age began, which is Japan in August of 1945. Their names are Ms. Toshiko Tanaka and Mr. Ogawa Todayoshi. And they are joining us today along with two youth communicators from Peaceboat, which is a Japan-based NGO that for the last 35 years has been organizing really amazing around-the-world voyages to promote peace and human rights and sustainability. After a weekend of thinking about the world's most pressing problems in a very abstract and technical way, I can't think of a better way to close than to remind ourselves of ultimately how it all grounds out and why it matters, which is the very real experience of living beings. So please join me in welcoming the delegation from Peaceboat.
It covered the sun. My mouth was full of dust. I can't forget that terrible, crunchy sand taste. Soon my wound began to swell. The pain was incredible. I cried all the way home, but our house was very damaged when I got there. Even though my mother was alive, she could not recognize me. My hair was burned. I was covered in ash. My clothes were destroyed. That night, I was close to death. Many doctors were dead. There were no hospitals left. Survival depended on how strong you were and how lucky. My younger sister had bad head wounds. It took only 1 second for a single bomb to destroy the city of Hiroshima and 140,000 lives. 3 days later, second air bomb was dropped in Nagasaki, and 70,000 people died. All my classmates were killed. My young aunt left home that morning and never came back. Her body was never found. After I got home that day, I saw a large crowd of dying people. They were walking in a line near my house. Some were orphans. Men, women, and children alike were almost naked with burned clothes. They walked in silence with outstretched arms. Burned peeled skin hung from the tips of their fingers. They were like zombies. Even today, whenever I see barbecued tomatoes, it reminds me of that terrible scene of death. Like tomatoes, human skin peels off easily when burned. After the night of the bombing, I was unconscious for a few days. When I woke up, there was a strong smell in the air. It was like burning rotten fish. Even now, I can still smell it. But the smell wasn't fish. It was the smell of human bodies being cremated in city parks and school grounds. In those days, the city of Hiroshima and the surface of the rivers which ran through the city were entirely covered by people's bodies. time passed, the wounds on my skin became less visible, but the emotional wounds and the radioactive damage remained. Do you know the famous story of Sadako and her paper cranes? Sadako was 4 years younger than me, and we went to the same school. My generation will be the last to tell you about this event as direct witnesses. How many more people will have to suffer this same tragedy again? I know one day we will live in a nuclear-free world, and a beautiful blue sky will continue to shine above the heads of our future generations. Thank you.
こんにちは。長崎から来た小川と申します。私は1歳の時に被爆して、現在80歳でございます。生まれた場所は爆心地から約1キロの地点で、その場所は直接被爆は45日間でほぼ死亡したとのことで、私の存在はありませんでしたが、幸いに父が原爆投下2ヶ月前に8キロ先の父方の本家へとりあえず使用する家財道具をリアカーに積み疎開して家族全員が助かり今に至っております。
Hello everybody. My name is Ogawa Tadayoshi and I'm from Nagasaki. I was exposed to the atomic bomb when I was 1 year old, so I will be 80 years old this year. I was born around 1 kilometer from the epicenter, and with the exposure to the bomb, within 45 days, I almost passed away. Fortunately, before the explosion, my father had evacuated our family further from the city, around 8 kilometers from the epicenter, around 5 miles. We had packed the household goods into a handcart, and fortunately, given the distance, most of us were saved. We were exposed to the bomb, and 1 week afterwards, on August 16th, my father went back to his home.
被爆したのは原爆炸裂1週間後の8月16日に父が自宅を見に行くのと、親類の安否確認に家族7人で市内に入り入試被爆になりました。もちろん自宅は跡形もなく消滅していたとのことです。父は死亡した親類を見つけ、一人でトタンの上で旅に伏したということでございます。
Returning to his original home in the city, a week after the bomb exploded, my father wanted to check the condition of his house and also the safety of his relatives that had stayed behind. Of course, the home was destroyed without a trace, and my father found his dead relatives, their bodies, and had to cremate them on site himself.
ちょっと分かりにくいと思いますけれども、出る出ないか。
出ます。
あれは広島。
あ、すみません。
あ、いいよいいよ。
あ、そうですか。
私が生まれたところはここになります。で、これは1週間後の写真ですけど、こういうことでも跡形もなく家はなかったということでございます。
So, for example, this is his birthplace. There's a red point, and you can see that there was nothing left after the atomic bombing.
これもいいないじゃあいい。こういうことで元の家に帰ることができず、父は8キロの道を自転車に車間道具を積み仕事に行っていました。無理がたたり体調を壊したのもあり、疎開から10年後に市内に帰ってきました。父は徐々に弱っていき、市内に帰ってきてから3年で脳梗塞で亡くなりました。 父の収入源がなくなり、何年間は母の内職で生活をいたしました。とにかく貧乏で、子供の頃はほとんど小遣いをもらえませんでした。常にお腹を空かしていることを覚えております。
Unable to return to his original family home, my father instead resolved to ride his bicycle every day along a road around 8 kilometers, 5 miles, with his plastering tools that he would use to work. But he overexerted himself and his health suffered. And although he decided to return to the city 10 years after the original evacuation, he grew gradually weaker, and he eventually died of a cerebral infarction 3 years after he had returned to the city. My father had lost his source of income, so for several years he lived off of my mother's side jobs, and we remained very poor. I barely got what people consider pocket money as a child, and I remember that we were always hungry.
その母は31年前、85歳で膀胱がんで亡くなりました。その同じ病気を私は昨年の12月に再発して摘出手術をして、このピースボートに乗ってきました。
My mother died of a bladder cancer 31 years ago at the age of 85. The average age of atomic bomb survivors today is 85. And I too have suffered, and I was hospitalized last year before I traveled on my way.
今、被爆者の平均年齢は85歳になります。被爆者の証言活動は時間がありません。どんな理由があろうとも、非戦闘員である一般国民を無差別に殺害し、被害を人にまで及ぼす核の使用は人道に反する行為です。世界のどこの国も二度と核兵器による私たちのような被爆者を作らないように、遠い道のりからも知りませんが、核廃絶ができるまで私は被爆証言を続けます。
There is not much time left for the testimonies of the survivors of the atomic bombings. No matter what the reason given, the use of nuclear weapons, which indiscriminately kills non-combatants and spreads the damage onwards to future generations, is an act against humanity. I hope that no country in the world will ever again create victims like us using nuclear weapons. It may be a long journey, but I will continue to testify and onwards with my mission until nuclear weapons are abolished from this earth, with the desire to make of Nagasaki the last city to have ever witnessed an atomic bomb.
私は長崎の原爆の火を風化させないようにということで、今年で16回目になる忘れないプロジェクトの活動を行っています。8月9日11時2分、その日その時シャッターを切り、長崎の原爆の火を共にし、その撮った風景が、花が、ペットが、大事なものが一瞬にして消滅してしまったことに思いを馳せてもらえたらと思っております。小さな一歩ですが、若者の平和活動の入り口にしていただけたら幸いです。今回のクルーズに同船している孫娘に私の活動を継承するようにお願いしております。この会場の皆様もぜひご協力をお願いいたします。私は長崎を最後の被爆土地にとの思いで活動をやっています。どうぞよろしくお願いします。
I am working on a project called We Will Not Forget, which is now in its 16th year, as shown in this poster. And it is about remembering what happened on the days of the atomic bombings. The goal is to take a photograph on August 9th at 11:02 when the bomb exploded, and to recall how all this scenery, the flowers, the pets, the people and the lives and all the things we consider important were disappearing in an instant with one single explosion. It's a small step, but I would be happy if activities like these could be an entry point for young people to start peace activities and a commitment to building a safer world. In 21 years from now, on the 100th anniversary of the atomic bombings, I aim to have 1,000 photos from Japan and overseas, and we've asked our granddaughter, who's joined us on this journey, to continue this project. We ask everyone here to please cooperate together to create a more peaceful world. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Rongyuan Huang. I am a youth representative with Hibakusha Project. I was born in China and lived there for most of my life. I studied in Japan for a year as an exchange student and then moved to the United States, where I have lived for almost 10 years. Currently, I live in New York. This megacity has shown me how people from different backgrounds can come together and create peace. New York is a diverse place, with people of different colors and cultures. I often spend time with friends from different countries and learn about their cultures. Despite differing viewpoints, this diversity of thought is not only normal, but also enriching. I wish the world's leaders could do the same. Sit together in a park and talk about how they can make peace together, so that all citizens can live happily. Turning our attention to current global conflicts, such as the ongoing war between Russia and Ukraine, and the current crisis in Gaza, we are reminded of the devastating impact of war and the pressing need for peaceful solutions. The narratives of the Hibakusha, survivals of the Hiroshima and Nagasaki atomic bombings, resonate more profoundly than ever in today's world. Their stories underscore the importance of empathy, understanding, and dialogue in resolving conflicts. During the voyage, we participated in activities closely tied to the Hibakusha project, including arranging events for passengers to hear Ms. Tanaka and Mr. Ogawa share their experiences of the horrors of the nuclear war and its lasting impact on their lives and communities. We also introduced Japan's Constitution Article 9, which renounces war and the use of force, and how it shapes Japan's peace-oriented policies. As a youth representative, I've had the privilege of meeting Hibakusha survivors and hearing their stories firsthand. Their bravery, especially at their age, is truly inspiring. They overcome fears and share their painful experiences to show how destructive nuclear weapons can be. It's clear that they are doing the right thing. As the younger generation, we must support them in their mission to create a peaceful world, even if it seems impossible. During our visit to Shenzhen, China, we received a warm reception from the Chahar Institution. The chairman shared insights from his studies on world peace and emphasized the significance of the relationship between Japan and China. He compared Japan and China to a married couple who, despite occasional disagreements, stay together. Stressing the importance of being good neighbors, we ended the event by exchanging gifts and promising to work together for mutual benefits. This occasion marked a significant milestone for the Hibakusha projects, paving the way for subsequent engagements, including a meeting with the President of Seychelles on May 1st. A very touching moment happened on board when I introduced nuclear weapon survivals to a guest from Peace Boat, whose grandfather was a victim of the Nanjing massacre in China. They shared their stories, and Ms. Tanaka from the Hibakusha project even apologized to him for what Japanese had done to his family. This shows how understanding and empathy can help heal old wounds and build peace. In conclusion, this journey has profoundly shaped my perspective on global security and the significance of reconciliations. As a Hibakusha youth, it is our responsibility to ensure that the lessons of the past are not forgotten and continuously promote the stories of nuclear weapon survivors worldwide. I hope that through our efforts, Ukrainians can return to their dear homes, and children in Gaza can gaze upon the blue sky once more. Let's make peace together. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Miki, Joel, and to, of course, our two honored speakers today for sharing your stories and for every stop you've made on your long journey promoting this important message of peace. We have time for just a few questions, and I wonder if we can start with one from Arvo in the audience. He asks, if you had an opportunity to speak to world leaders today, what would you say to try and prevent future catastrophes like the one that occurred in Japan in 1945 from occurring?
Hi. 世界のリーダーは今自分の戦争をしています。どうぞ地球全体のことを考えて原爆の使われた時の惨状、それを聞いてください。私はそのお話をして使ってはダメなんです。持ってもダメなんですと本当に言いたいですね。
私は
What I would like to tell the world leaders is that, for a large part, they are fighting their own war and not our war. And when they consider, for example, the use of nuclear weapons, they're not taking into account the damages, the impacts, the realities of the use of such a weapon.
私、先ほど申し上げたように、非戦闘員をですよ、なくすっていうかな、非戦闘員を殺してしまうような核をですね、どうして使うのかということと、核使ったらこういうことにですね、町が全滅してしまいます。で、それで子孫までですね、その放射能の影響を残すんですから、それはやっぱり使うことはならんと思います。
When weapons such as these are used, the people that perish are mostly non-combatants. It's civilians and people that aren't there to do the fighting that are, for large part, annihilated, as in this photo.
Thank you. Ball from the audience asks, first of all, thank you so much for your stories, he says. As you travel around the world, what do you see that makes you fearful for the future, and what do you see that gives you hope?
はい、私でいいですか。世界を旅していると昔は原爆で戦争が終わったという声がありました。しかし今は若い人が、特に大学生とかね、そういう人たちが原爆が今使われたら自分たちの問題なんだというね。昔は戦争が終わったと原爆をむしろあれですね、容認してた人もいたんですけど、今は若い人を中心に原爆が使われると自分たちはどうして生き残ったらいいんだろうとみんな話してます。だからみんな今ロシアのあれですね、原爆を使う核兵器を使うことを示唆したことなどがあって、若い人は自分のこととして今からどのようにしていったらいいかとみんな話し合ってます。それを体験してきました。去年アメリカでそれを体験しましたね。大学の学生は自分ごとになってます。でもそれを私たちは持った方がいいという人たちと本当に隔絶してしまっています。これがとても悲しいです。
talking to young people around the world, one thing that comes up is that young people are a lot more concerned about war, great power conflict, nuclear use, compared to the past, where in recent years there came this belief that war would no longer be a concern for many people, that there was a kind of peace that people could take for granted. These days, young people all around the world, they ask not just about the nuclear weapons, but about their individual contexts. How would I survive? What would I do? How would I react if there was a war or if nuclear weapons were used? These are some of the things that resonate all around the world.
世界を回ってて、この証言活動をしながら回ってて思うことは、その若者たちがですね、いろんな質問を投げかけてきます。で、一応答えでやると、その被爆者の言葉をですね共有でき、で自分たちはですね今後その被爆証言をみんなに伝えていきたいと思うっていうことを言ってくれる人がたくさんいますのでですね、希望は捨てないで私たちも証言活動をしていきたいと思っております。
Speaking to young people around the world is also a source of hope because young people ask many questions and they ask us to share about our experiences, what we have learned and what we have seen. So that is one source of hope.
Thank you. Over the course of your lifetimes, how and how much have attitudes in your home country towards the use of nuclear weapons changed? And if they have changed significantly, are there particular historical events, like the release of a book or a movie, maybe a change in political party, that you can point to which catalyzed that change?
今核兵器を持つことは大変危険なことだけど、今アメリカの核の傘に、NATO もそうですけど日本が守ってもらっています。でもそれで本当に守ってくれるのか、核が本当に使われる世界になると、もうこれは今の持っている威力は私たちが経験した時のより何千倍も大きな破壊力を持っているんですね。地球は滅亡します。でこれをはっきりと今一番危ない時なんだということをですね、世界の指導者に言いたいですね。
If we consider the present moment, there's a lot of dangerous ideas. For example, in Japan, many people, they talk of a nuclear umbrella. But would the nuclear umbrella really save you in the case of a nuclear war? Is that what its purpose is? And the other consideration is that nuclear weapons today are many orders of magnitude more powerful than the one that exploded in 1945. If there was a true nuclear war, would we see devastation on the scale of what we saw in 1945, or would it be the end of organized human life on Earth?
そうですね。原爆が落ちた時にはもう絶対戦争はダメ、核はダメということでしたけど、今80年ぐらい経ってから若干その辺は国の方針も変わってきていると思います。だから核廃絶に対して後ろ向きっていうことではないですけど、やっぱり積極的に日本政府は動いてないと私は思っております。
Another important point is that while we might not necessarily call this a regression, the attitudes towards the use of nuclear weapons have changed quite a bit as well. There's talk of using nuclear weapons from different places, and many countries are also developing national policies that make it easier to use nuclear weapons, whether by error or by intention. And so there's also an increasing danger that's been developing, and both have echoed that perhaps we are at a particularly dangerous moment in this point in history.
それから今ですね、日本の公共放送の NHK が ICAN のことをどんどん取り上げるようになってきました。これはやはり政府の方針に対してまた民間のですね、危機感が現れていると思います。これは今までに珍しいことです。 今度のピースボートにも NHK が乗ってきてあるインタビューをします。
One additional development is that in the case of Japan, there's an equivalent to the BBC that's called NHK, and they've also been a lot more receptive to content on nuclear disarmament and non-proliferation. For instance, they've taken a lot more interest recently in the activities that they have been doing.
Thank you. I think we have time just for one more minute. If you could briefly share, what do you think is sort of the biggest obstacle that we currently face for a safer future?
ちょっと聞こえない。
そうですね。私は思うにはやっぱり人と人とのですね、話し合いだと思います。だからまあ国と国はなかなか難しいと思いますけども、だからそれはその国のなんか主要者がその話し合いをすれば解決できる部分がたくさんあるんじゃないかと思っております。
In short, it would be people-to-people discussions. So conversations between individuals that are currently not happening, people that really should be speaking together to be able to create safer conditions, but it's currently not the case.
そして今一番核の使われる危険性がある世界情勢になっています。だけど国連はあまり機能していないんですね。それを止める力を持っていません。だからこれから若い人がその新しいもう核の使われない仕組み、それを考えていただく今本当に大事な時期だと思っています。
One more is that we live in a time of particular nuclear dangers, yet institutions are lacking. For instance, the United Nations does not have any functions or mechanisms that allow it to play a role in preventing nuclear war, at least as at present. And therefore, it's up to young people in particular to be thinking ahead, developing mechanisms of different kinds that will make it less likely that there will be war, particularly nuclear war. We have to be planning ahead.
Well, on that note, thank you so much for having this conversation with us. Please join me one more time in thanking Mr. Ogawa, Ms. Tanaka, and the entire delegation from Peace Boat.